Hello, Monday. Welcome, everybody. This is Sharon Ria for Conscious Communications and the Practice of No Judgment, Just Love. This is episode 3. Oh my, did you have a good weekend? Here we are on Monday talking about talking. I am, as I said, Sharon Ria, your host. I am a family relationship coach, and the name of my business is The Whole Family Coaching. I work with families, helping them enhance their bonds and communicate well. So consider somebody in your family or in your business or in your friend group is saying one thing and you're hearing something completely different. And I come in the middle and say, this is what they meant. That's pretty much what I do with families who are raising teens, families trying to find their way after divorce, grandparents raising their grandchildren, and every caregiver wanting to raise happy, confident, well-adjusted young people. I'm also the founder of a global movement, No Judgment, Just Love. No Judgment, Just Love inspires us all to live together one conversation at a time. Now, of course, we judge all the time, right? So I'm not asking us not to judge because we will. I'm saying that when you do judge, and you will, to try and take a pause. And instead of just reacting, see if you can respond. Or maybe you don't need to respond at all, but use much more allowance with yourself and with others as you communicate. Now, the conscious communications and the practice of No Judgment, Just Love show is sponsored by and hosted by Enlighten World Network. And I really appreciate their support. So last week we talked about listening. Did anybody have any experiences with any of the things that we talked about last week? Well, I did, because remember, one of the things we spoke about was listening to your body. When a professional tells you how to exercise or what to eat, they may be right a lot of the time, and they may be right for you some of the time. But it's important to listen to your body, and I'll give you an example. I was doing a cleanse, and I don't know if anyone ever drinks celery juice in the morning to cleanse your liver, to cleanse your body. It does a lot of healthy things. Well, I've been doing this practice for about a month, and every morning I would drink my celery juice. It tasted wonderful. It went down not so hard. It was just yummy. Friday morning, right before the show, I tried to gulp down that celery juice and it just would not go down. So I listened to my body saying, hey, Sharon, we enjoyed that celery juice for as long as you were doing it, but today's not the day. And so what happened was I decided the next 3 days, I'm not drinking that celery juice, and I feel fantastic. So listen to your body. Well, today's episode is episode 3, and we're talking about multi-generational communication. And in your family, in business, in the world, we are people of a lot of different ages, right? And each one of us lived through a different time, was raised a different way, and so the way we communicate is different. And it's very valuable when you are doing conscious communication to be aware that if I'm speaking to someone who's 10, I might want to speak to them different than I would to someone who's 45. And not just in my tone and not just in my words, but actually understanding a little bit about their possible background. So today's 3 tips, and remember, every show we have one topic. Today is multi-generational, and I'll offer you 3 things to think about. So the 3 things today are the golden rule and the platinum rule. The second thing is, do we have a generational gap? And the third thing is talking across 6 different generations. So let's begin with the first one, the golden rule and the platinum rule. I believe most of us know what the golden rule is. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Now, in thinking about that golden rule, it kind of means that if you feel or speak a certain way, you're going to ask that other person or expect that other person to speak that certain way. Do unto others the way you would want them to do unto you. Do to other people how you would like things done for you. Well, in communication, I invite you to consider the platinum rule. And what the platinum rule says, speak to others in the language that they understand. Now, that's going to be a little challenging because it requires you to learn a little bit about that person so that when you speak to them, you have a better chance of being understood. So, the platinum rules, speak to other people in the language that they understand. And so, as we talk about generations, do we have a generation gap? I don't know how many of you out there are in different generations listening to me, but the Kennedy family here in the United States was a very popular family for a long time, probably through the 50s all the way up to the 60s, and even still in the 70s, and a little bit less today because they're not as prominent in politics as they were before. But one of the Kennedys died. And so if you were to ask the veterans, the baby boomers, those generations like me that are older, and you would say, when did Kennedy die? I would say in Dallas, there was a gunshot and he was president of the United States. If you ask another generation younger than me, like the millennials, they would remember his son, John John. He died in a plane crash in the ocean. If you even talk to someone younger, this generation gap gets wider because if you say, when did Kennedy die? They might say, Kennedy who? So you see, each generation has a different experience with life, meaning the things that you say to them, they may understand and they may not. So let's get into it, all right? Here we are with the first generation, which is the oldest generation. Those are those dear, wonderful people that were born between 1901, wow, and 1926. They are 94 years old and above. Can you imagine? The first thing I think about when I think about the greatest generation is respect and honor, because they are still here and they've lived a long time. And so their life was really hard in the beginning. They lived through the Great Depression. Things were not as fast and technology was not as available as it was when they grew up. So conversations took a long time because you either wrote a letter or you had to be in the same vicinity as someone during that time. And also, they're very private. They're not as open and free as we are in this age of selfies and cell phones. And how they conducted themselves was cash only, baby. If you didn't have the money, you didn't buy the thing. And so that's a very different lifestyle than we have here. So having some awareness about their foundation, about their values, about how they see the world will help you communicate with those grandparents, great grandparents, people in your community, in your office, in your business. And I would suggest if you have the opportunity to write to them, write them a thank you note, write them a letter, because that's how that generation communicated the most. So we're going up a little bit more in age. We're starting way, way, way back and going forward. So the next generation are the traditionalists. These also are people that have lived for a long time. They're between the ages of 75 and 93, born in 1927 to 1945. So that was during World War II. And our country was quite different during World War II. People banded together. There were war bonds that were sold. Women came out of the homes and went to work to help with the war planes and things in factories. So they were really involved in our country defending itself. It was also a time when people were very honoring of authority. So if your parents told you something to do, if the government told you something to do, if your boss told you something to do, you were very much more willing to listen and respond with, okay, I will. There were also very traditional male and female roles. Husbands and wives, boys and girls had different prescribed ways that they were conducting themselves or acting. Also, this generation did not have as much technology as we have now, but they had a little bit more than the greatest generation, the one before. And so, again, written communication was really the best way to speak. Telephones were new, televisions were coming new. So, if you have anyone in your world that's between the ages of 75 and 93, surprise them. Write them a letter, mail it to them so they get mail. Mail is really exciting. So moving again, now we're into the baby boomer. Woo, that's from 1946 to 1964. These are the people that are between the ages of 56 and 74. Whoop, 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 that's me. And previously, the baby boomers were the largest amount of people that were born and living in the United States. After the war, yes, everybody was happy. And so lots of babies were born. America was new. We had come away from the war with a victory. And so this generation moved through the 50s and the 60s where a lot of social change happened. Women that were out of the home working in factories were not so willing to go back in the home to be a homemaker. They wanted to become more in their lives. And so lots of women decided to go to work and find a career. Marriages did this shift of, I think we're not working well together, so more willing to get divorced, which made children have a different youthful lifestyle. Now they had 1 and 2 families. They had a different way to interact with their mom and dad. Also, there was a lot of focus on safety, on working and new retirement. Those people usually before in the traditionalist time, when you retired, you worked maybe 50 or so years, 45 years, and you left your job, your one job, and you got a watch or you got a party, and that was it. Now people were moving around to different jobs and retirement didn't quite look the same. These people, like me, we really appreciate a phone call. Or an in-person conversation. Sometimes I have a lot of trouble with the automated just talk to the machine. So think about that when you're talking with baby boomers, those that are wonderfully aged between 56 and 74. All right, going down to the Generation X. Those are the people that are between 40 and 55. They are fast. This generation is moving it. They are doing a lot of things and they like timely, direct communication, not a lot of chit chat here and there. So they're also raising young children and at the same time caring for elders, caring for their parents. So when you're communicating with this group of people, make sure it's quick and to the point. Now, the millennials, they're an exciting group as well. Those are our young people. They're getting involved in politics. They were born between 1981 and 1994. They're between the ages of 26 and 39, and they love social media. Talk to them on any of the channels that you want. Social media, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, all of that. They can handle multitasking and they're very involved in conversation. They may have a lot of selfies because they're proud of their bodies and proud of themselves. Give a little grace there. Then we come now to Generation Z. Those are the young people that are between the ages of 6 years old and 25. And I have a daughter in that age range. We previously, the baby boomers were the largest generation. Now, these Generation Zs, they are bigger than we are. So there are a lot of young people and they deserve our respect because our world is very different. Those of us that have come before have a different perspective. These young people are living in a world that is constantly changing. They are very much available to their electronics. They understand how to use that. They talk in code sometimes. So have a little grace with them as well. And the littler ones, the 6 to 10 years old, let me just give you a few things about them that are quite interesting. They grew up talking to their grandparents like this online. They are independent learners. You can give them a computer and allow them to search and find their information. And they have kind of short attention spans because of that. So remember, whatever you want to say to them, make sure you grab their sweet little heads and get their attention. And one of the things that was very interesting to me about this generation is as we go through their school, as we prepare them for life, guess what? They're preparing for jobs that may not even have not yet been created. They don't exist yet. So we make sure we give them the skills of their personality and their character, as well as the tangible skills. So there you are, across the generations. Now I want to leave you with a no judgment, just love quote. And that is, everyone, all of us in all the generations, as we communicate, we are doing the best that we can. That is, even if it doesn't look like it to you. So be kind to the people older than you, be kind to the ones younger than you, and really have great conversations. Thank you so much for joining me today. I appreciate you being here. I'd love it if you send me some comments or questions or suggestions. You can write to me at sharon@njjl.world or find me on Facebook or YouTube and send me a note. Have a wonderful Monday. Enjoy. Have great conversations. Use no judgment, just love to make every word count. Bye now.